Dua Lipa has finally released her sophomore album titled Future Nostalgia, and it perfectly lives up to the title. It's a modern day pop album that makes several callbacks to the 70s and 80s, and it also takes influence from other stars who have done the same thing, like Madonna with her 2005 release, Confessions on the Dance Floor, and Kylie Minogue with her 2001 release, Fever. You can also clearly hear the Daft Punk influence, but she definitely makes it her own. On this album, she sounds so confident, so assuring, and her vocals glide or soar on every single instrumental. Now, every song isn't a smash radio hit, and that's because some of it is a bit more experimental with sounds, but it fits perfectly within the album. It's so cohesive and the songs flow so well together. There really honestly isn't a track that I felt wasn't worth revisiting. There are some slower moments in between, but there's slim to no filler tracks on this album, which is quite impressive, especially for your sophomore album. I love the album's length. It's short, only 11 tracks, which is starting to become rare nowadays because artists tend to pop in as many songs as they can to increase streams, but it seems like she was actually focused on producing a quality body of work with this album. Although it might be a little bit short in length, it's not at all short in quality. In this album, she tackles subjects of double standards, heartbreak, relationships, and regaining control and confidence. With Physical, she's playful and confident about her sexuality. On album cuts like Love Again, the New Rule singer finds herself falling in love again, which seems to be about the same person. With Wreck My Heart, she questions her feelings and if she's falling into the same exact trap. And the subject matter is honestly pretty straightforward in some instances. It seems like storytelling. And by that I mean it feels like some of the songs are connected and are telling a continuing story, but not the entire album as a whole. On Good in Bed, she talks about having doubts about her relationship, but she's rolled right back in because of her lover's skills in bed. On Boys Will Be Boys, which she closes the album off with, it's a pretty powerful statement as she states, "Boys will be boys, but girls will be women." I think it's also important to mention that she is a skilled singer and her voice tends to be more raspy, smoky, and soulful, but she's still very playful with her voice and diction in this album. Everything else aside, solely focusing on the sonics of this album, I think it was quite brave of her to release a disco and dance-oriented album, especially since it's her second effort, and being in the current atmosphere of pop music is much more slow, dark, and moody, and the subject matter is just quite depressing sometimes. With disco, dance, and fuck songs, those genres are particularly always upbeat and associated with happiness, and even if it's about heartbreak, it still has danceability to it, which is a total contrast to today's pop music landscape. This album is sleek, the production is clean, and the lyricism also fits perfectly within these genres. And I'm quite impressed because this entire era in her career started off packing a punch as soon as Don't Start Now was released. And here were my thoughts on the singles. She kicked off this era with a bang with a disco-inspired sleeper hit, which became her second top 10 hit in the States titled Don't Start Now, which is a great song. It's instantly captivating and the production is superb. Lyrically, she addresses moving on from a failed relationship and boldly telling her ex-lover to don't start caring about her now, which is actually a great follow-up to New Rules, which is her most known hit. I don't know if it was intentional, but Don't Start Now continues the aftermath of New Rules so perfectly. Of course, New Rules talks about not returning to an ex-lover and making a list and make sure you follow those rules. And then Don't Start Now is essentially her being pushed to the other side, and she's happy and fine without them. Also, don't want to get ahead of myself, but I will say the production of this song sounds very timeless. I feel like in 10 years I will still be able to listen to it and it'll still have a fresh sound while retaining that 70s disco nod. She then released the title track as a promotional single, which is my personal favorite from this album so far. It's so quirky and she shows off a lot of confidence and personality, and the production is a bit reminiscent of Daft Punk and continues with the disco electronic influence. Lyrically, she boasts about being a powerful woman in music, her album, her sound, and in some respects, she just says fuck you, but in a very appealing way. It's the perfect balance of playfulness and pop music greatness. She furthermore proves that she's an alpha within the music industry right now. And then we have Physical, her most recent single from Future Nostalgia, and it strays away from the 70s disco theme and dives more into the 80s dance pop theme. It's a very high energy song, and yet the production plays a bit more on the darker side of things and channeling a little bit of the 80s synth wave. Essentially everything about this song is 80s, even the title. It's instantly reminiscent of Olivia Newton-John's 1981 smash Physical, so I would say she's followed through with the album title quite well, pertaining to the sound. The title Future Nostalgia makes so much more sense while listening to all of the different influences from different eras of music. It does a great job at feeling nostalgic but not sounding dated. She recently released Break My Heart as a single, and it keeps up with the nostalgic theme. All in all, this is a great pop album, and she really did a full 180 with this album. It's actually very admirable to see the changes she made from her first album to now. I think this album is a landmark for her. I hope she's one of the most promising pop stars of the 2020s, and I think she may be one of the key figures for pop music this decade. Future Nostalgia is the best pop album released this year so far. It 1000% lives up to its title and is a clear staple in Dua Lipa's growing and extremely promising career.